What is up, everyone? I am here with Josh from Collectors Gone Digital, the Canadian legend himself, an incredible channel, really, really high production quality. The guy is a technical mastermind, probably the best when it comes to building out these metaverses, and especially within the VeVe ecosystem. I just was like amazed by the content that you've been delivering, the consistency, the branding. And so obviously I wanted to pick your brain, but I also wanted to just make sure people, know who you are, man. So good to see you, Josh. Oh, I don't know if I could hear you, brother. There we go.
Can you hear me now?
I can. Yep.
I have two mute
Perfect.
buttons. One was still muted. No, thanks for having me on, man. I'm super excited for this stream. I mentioned to you before that I've been watching your channel for a while, so thanks for having me on.
Man, thanks for coming on, bro. Yeah, like it's so funny when people say they've watched my channel and like they're like, yeah, you're one of the maybe sometimes the reason what I was into FAs or like why I got interested in this stuff. So it's just cool because like I think I told you this before, but like it started really just out of pure passion. Like I didn't care what my screen looked like, and then this whole system and like community just started like developing, right? And then now here we are, where like there's such a core amount of us left, and I don't know, man. It's just cool to see like the development. So
Yeah, it's we've definitely come a long way from where you and I first started in the community. So it's exciting.
it is exciting. And man, I've been watching some of your even like your tutorials because I'll be honest, I'm not very like computer savvy. And so that's been really helpful, the stuff that you've been putting out to the community. Guys, if you haven't seen Josh's tutorials on like just how to do certain things, it's been really helpful because I just
Thank
started
you.
playing around with it this past weekend. And like it is complex. I'm being like I didn't really get it right away. Like I had to sit there and think. So how did you figure it out so quick?
Well, I've built maps in other games before, like Halo, Minecraft. Started dabbling with like Fortnite and stuff, which uses Unreal Engine, which is a pretty, complicated game engine. So a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot, but some of the settings from those platforms were the same when I came over into the Veveverse. And Unity is that underlining engine, right? So the arrows that you use to move objects or scale them or rotate them, it's all the same in all these other platforms. So I was kind of used to that already. But like you said, it's a little complicated in certain aspects. So I am still trying to learn some of the more advanced settings. So still learning process there, but it was easy for me to pick up. Oh, I can't hear you. Did I lose you? No, I can't hear you at all. I don't know if you can hear me.
What about now? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Now I can hear you.
Yeah, brother. I was just going to say some of the things that you've been doing and building are insane. Like it looks like you're an architect. And so I was like, just kind of like blown away where people are like, oh yeah, I used Unity before, but I'm like, dude, there's like, you've got pot lights up in your Veveverse. You've got like, these incredible staircases. I'm like, man, like, I feel like it's not just anybody that can just do that. So like, how are you doing that? Like, I don't get that.
Well, I think part of it comes from experience, but I also do use like a lot of reference shots. So I mentioned on my channel about how I'll go to like Pinterest or there's another site called AmazingArchitecture.com where you can click on photos, but it's not just like a single photo of the building. It'll give you like a full portfolio of interior photos of the building, different angles of the exterior and stuff like that. So it's a lot easier to build stuff like that when you have different angles. Whereas if you just go to Google and you have one shot of the front, then you can build the front of the house. It's not too difficult if you break it down part by part. But when you get to the side or the back of the house or the interior, right, it's like a whole different beast then. So yeah, I try to find reference shots online that include more than just like one or two angles. So that's kind of where it comes from.
That makes me feel a lot better, if I'm being honest with you, because I'm just like, this guy's just coming up with this stuff. And I'm like,
No, and
yeah,
maybe one thing to add there is like when I look at the reference shots, 99% of the time I will change things kind of as I go through. So it is a bit of kind of what's in my head and what I see in the shot, but for anyone who thinks that going off reference shot is kind of like cheating, it's not. Like, that's a very normal thing for artists to do, to go to Google, get reference shots of, you know, like a dog that they're painting or something. I just did a video not too long ago on different facts about collectibles on the platform, and Disney actually brought in different animals for the people who were making the movie to like learn the kind of like mannerisms of different animals that they had to animate for the film. So deer in the studio, they had live rabbits in the studio, and all of that was used as reference, right? So anybody who thinks it's cheating, it's not. Just take advantage of them.
Super cool, Josh. I'm glad that you kind of set that up, because I think a lot of people were perplexed to be like, how do we do this, like starting from the ground up? So it's like nice to know that, like, you know, you're using those reference points. And bro, can we just like walk in and showcase this amazing stuff that you've done? Is that possible?
Yeah. So I'm in a space now. I'm hoping it's not going to be too laggy for you guys.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, so this was the first space that I created in the Veveverse. I was let into the beta about 2 weeks before launch. So I kind of started building this in the beta. I call it high rise. You start in like a little elevator here, and then the whole environment I tried to create was like this penthouse feel.
That's so crazy, dude.
Yeah. So this door is supposed to work on my account right now. Sliding doors aren't working for some reason, but they do work for everyone else. But that'll open. You come out into here, go to first person.
Wow. I'm loving that too. Like, that's a sexy place for some of the Pride stuff, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love those pieces. Right now, they're not animated. They're just static, but they still look good.
Yeah. Raven says, so if the Toronto Zoo is missing animals, we know where they are. That's what they think of us out there, Josh. Everybody's excited to see you, brother. They're saying like, you're the real deal. You know, that like,
Thank you, guys.
They're saying that you're the guy that's really evolving, you know, the Veveverse for us. Two of my favorite YouTubers. So a lot of cool comments.
Let's go. What's up, Pooski? But yeah, I just walk around here and it kind of just opens up. So some of this stuff I will admit you can't really do now. So I created like a little logo for the map. I can't upload like that file now. Sick. So hopefully they toggle that feature on in the future. But yeah, to the left, we got a little display room.
Wow.
I just actually added the lightsabers, which they just imported in not long ago.
Oh, man, that looks insane. That's crazy.
And then I'm a big fan of the concept art. So the Disney, the Star Wars stuff, I love all of them. So
it looks good.
Yeah, Finding Nemo and Cars are going to be some of my favorite Pixar films. But
wow.
I'm starting the Scotty Young wall over here.
Oh, you're a Scotty Young fan too, eh?
I am, and funny enough, I actually just started this week, so I haven't been too involved on the comic side yet.
Right.
Oops, one sec.
Man, I have to admit, like Scotty Young, there's something about his artwork that like it's so beautiful, cartoony, fun. There's a lot of whales that I talk to as well that they are loving, like they're stacking his stuff. Like I feel like he's just so unique among comic artists, you know?
And well, because I wasn't too involved on the comic side, I didn't understand where some of these floor prices were. And like the Black Panther comic here that I wanted the most was 3 gems. I was blown away.
What? Yeah.
3 gems. So, and most of them here were actually only a couple gems, but yeah, it's shocking, but I love his art. I think he's fantastic.
Yeah, and even Black Panther, bro, I feel like is underrated, not just on VeVe, but just in general as a superhero. Like, given that, like that, you know, Chad Boseman passed away as well. Like, I thought the legacy of that character being, you know, one of a few Black people that are superheroes, but also like just, I don't know, like it's just interesting to me that it's not more like popular. Like, yeah.
And the second Black Panther film, I don't know about you, I absolutely loved it. Wakanda Forever, fantastic film. So,
and it's rare they get better. Right? Like usually the first one's like the best.
That's true.
Like,
yeah.
Man, I love what you did with this wall with the Finding Nemo. That looks insane. Right?
Yeah. So funny story with this. This is the one concept Finding Nemo art in my library that it's been imported, but the actual artwork isn't there. It's like it's just the frame for some reason. So I just decided to turn it around and kind of use it as a wallpaper. But I think it worked.
The creativity though, man, that you have, like this is where I don't know, like you're really kind of standing out. Like I've seen a lot of like, these different VeVe kind of so far, so to speak. And some look amazing, some look good, but like you can tell some people just have an edge for like creativity and doing something that's exceptional. Like what is the time component for you in building this whole thing out? Like I know we're just seeing a snippet of it so far. But are we talking like weeks?
Yeah.
Or are we talking, I
Yeah.
figured that.
So I started this 2 weeks before launch, and I probably finished it a couple weeks after launch.
Wow.
I wouldn't even say it's completely done yet. I'm picky, so I don't think it'll ever be done. But it takes a few weeks, and that kind of brings me to a topic of like VeVe needs to introduce tools where it's a little easier for us to build, kind of like duplicating things over and over again, because I'm now faced with a bit of a scaling issue because I am offering building services, and right now I can only get 1, maybe 2 done in a month. Right. So I'm starting to have a bit of a wait list. So it takes a lot of time right now.
So what do you think that would be, like AI prompts and things like that would help kind of accelerate, like, give me this base model of this home, or like how would that work for you?
I don't know if they're going to introduce that anytime soon, just because I think it's in a way that's kind of a liability for the licensors.
Right.
I think what we need is more like things like hotkeys, where I can just do Control-C, Control-V on my computer to copy and paste, right? I don't need to right click and duplicate and drag and do all these extra steps. Another big thing though is, let's say, for example, here, if I fly over here.
First of all, holy shit. This looks crazy, man.
It looks much crazier because I just retextured it, which we can talk about.
This looks insane. Like I'm like, if I was a billionaire, is this in like an apartment kind of style? Like is outside like New York City, like kind of deal?
I have a skybox that kind of makes it. Yeah, there's a city
wow.
outside. It's a little laggy because everything's loading now that I'm getting closer to it. So I'll stop moving for a sec here. But this little shelf over here, I built that from scratch, right? So say, for example, I wanted to build 5 of those. Instead of me having to now rebuild each one of them, I should be able to just copy and paste the desk, right? Or the shelf. And that would save so much time, because if I go and rebuild now another 4 of them, that's going to take me 30 minutes to do, right? So over the course of several weeks, right, now you can kind of understand why it takes that long, because if you compartmentalize every little part, the first part was building all the walls, then the second part was adding a lot of the accessories, then the third part was adding the collectibles, and then the lighting, and then the trims, and then the skybox, and there's a lot of steps to it. So yeah.
Oh my god, man! I just the beauty of this, like I just want to look at those Mickey posters too. Like, what I love, dude, is like a lot of these collectibles and comics and what have you that might have been really overlooked now look incredible inside this Veveverse, right? Like look, and the way that you set this up with the lighting, it reminds me of like Michael Jordan jerseys in Drake's house. Have you ever seen Drake's house?
Yeah.
Like you walk through it. I mean, not that I've been there personally, but like through TikTok or whatever. And he's got all the jerseys like lined up with the spotlights. Like that's just so epic, dude.
That's exactly what I was going for too. So I really appreciate that.
Oh man.
But yeah, I thought I'd turn them around because the signatures don't get enough. I don't think so. But this is still one of my favorite sets on the platform. I absolutely love these things. So.
Oh man, it's so cool. And what I love about it too is like, because of your genius of how you're like accentuating the lighting and like making these things stand out, like people that are like, let's say Harley Quinn fans that are buying these things for like under 10 gems, they can make it pop too. Like imagine just like, 4 Harley Quinns. Like, so like the point is like, now it's not just like a secret rare Miles Morales or a Spider-Man or a partner statue you need to have to make your showroom look amazing. You can take things that are more like, let's say, basic and make them look incredible. And, external people wouldn't know the difference. Like that's the fun part.
Yeah, you can make existing pieces look incredible that you've seen in the vault. But another aspect to that is seeing pieces that you've never even seen in the vault in the Veveverse now. And there's kind of 2 parts to that, because one is the comics, right? Nobody's ever seen comics in the vault. And now we get to admire the art, right? Like I get to go up close. I get to see the cover. And because of that aspect alone is kind of why I'm starting to get more into like Scotty Young, right? Because now I can put his art on the wall. I can admire it. I'm seeing more of his work now too. I was just in California comic space, and I was moving along the wall, and I was asking him, like, where did you get this cover from? Where'd you get that one from? Because I had never really been on the VeVe Comics platform before, and now I'm starting to see all the artwork inside the Veveverse, and I want to go and buy it. So that's the first aspect. And then the second aspect is getting to socialize and interact with other collectors who have collectibles that you don't have, that you've never seen before. So I'm doing work with some like Dr. Fuse, who's the second biggest wallet on the platform. He has every collectible on the platform, which is insane, right? Because I'm getting now to the point in his space where I'm going to start adding collectibles. And instead of me being like, what pieces do you have? I can just go onto the app and go, hey, can you just place that, and that, right? And I'm getting to see Donnie for the first time. I'm getting to see one of ones for the first time. I'm getting to see, he placed the 007 1 of 7 Aston Martin. I'm like, oh, you mother, right? But it's such a cool thing to see now is those pieces, because I've seen Donnie in the vault like a couple times, once or twice. Same with the ticket and stuff, but in the Veveverse it's completely different, so it's super cool.
Man, I've never seen like Donnie in AR, like I never had it or anything, so like I feel for me too that would be just epic to see that. And bro, how often do you like just come into your space without actually building and just admire things? Like, are you doing that at all? Like, where you're like, hey, let me just jump into my Veveverse for like 10 minutes and just check out some stuff, or are you like anytime you come in it's like work's being done, like you're building something, you're doing something?
I'll sometimes go into the space with the intention of just like showing someone something, and more often than not I'll end up just like tweaking stuff just because I see stuff, and I'm just super picky, so I'm never 100% satisfied with anything I really do. But like this space I would probably consider mostly done now. There's still things that I'll look at and be like, oh, I want to change that, but I gotta almost stop myself because I'll never stop working on it, and I gotta get to other stuff. But if I ever come into a space and I'm just kind of flying around, it's more just to analyze what I've already done and how I can kind of make it better in other spaces. But I'm not kind of just visiting too much right now. I'm spending most of my time building.
Oh man, this is so cool. And we got a few people that are like commenting and stuff. So, you know, this guy named Guri says, I think people rotate items because they see someone's space and will want that item. So sales will happen to dump items that don't look good in their space, my guess. That's actually interesting. So Josh, is there items that you've seen that you like thought they would look better in the Veveverse, and then you're like, oh, actually, you know what? Like, for the amount I paid for it, I want to get rid of this thing now and jump on something else?
So there are pieces that I've looked at that the quality's like been a little iffy. I wouldn't say it's driven me to get rid of any pieces. But the opposite has happened where I've seen pieces that I think look really, really good that I don't have, that I went to the market and bought because of. But to Guri's point there, and what's going on, Guri? There was a space I was in, I think it was Mr. Champ's space, where I saw for the first time all 3 of the Powerpuff Girls together. Yeah. And I think it's Bubbles. There's only like 600 of them, but then the other 2 have several thousand, right?
Yeah.
So you can get the other 2 pretty easily, but that third one's very hard to get. So maybe not to Guri's exact point, but that's kind of where I see renting maybe coming in to play in the future. People who might not be able to get their hands on that third piece because it's too expensive in the market, and they might go to somebody like Mr. Champ and say, hey, can I rent that piece for a day or 2 so I can take some photos or make some content with it because I have the other 2. And then it completes all 3 for, you know, a few days while that person's renting it, and then, you know, Mr. Champ gets it back or whatever.
Love that.
Yeah.
And what are you like kind of seeing for like applications now? Like, you know, you said that you've like basically bought a few people into this space and like they can check it out with you. Like what does that look like? Are you like chatting with them through the Veveverse, or are you guys kind of like on a StreamYard thing, or like how does that work? Is it purely within Unity?
No. So I've done a mix actually, where people have just asked me to come into a space to chat real quick, and then I'll just hop in and use all of the social tools in here. So I'll just unmute my mic and then they can hear me.
Cool.
I can also turn on the camera here, but I use a virtual camera, which is why I have all that stuff in my background, and it just doesn't connect right now to the Veveverse. But yeah, so I'll use the social tools that way. And then if it's more of like a scheduled call with somebody that I know is more serious about doing some work together, then it's more of like a Discord thing or Skype. Not Skype, sorry, Zoom.
Zoom. Yeah. And is it like complex? Like I'm thinking like of the average Joe that like is just getting, because like new users is a big thing VeVe keeps talking about, right? And it's like obviously building a space is complex if you haven't done it before. But how about like just enjoying a space? Like let's say like I'm a new user, I just kind of joined, I bought like 10 collectibles, I come in and I'm like, I want to hang out with Josh. Can you have like just a basic computer at home and and then you just kind of jump in, or do you need like the best of this and like all these different softwares, or like what does that look like?
Yeah, good question. So I have I probably say an above average PC. I bought it for the Veveverse leading up to the launch.
Cool.
So I'm running right now a 4070 Super.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. But when I was just on business, I was in Alberta last week. I was running the Veveverse off my laptop. And it's a laptop from 2016, I think, or 2018. It's not powerful or anything. The only downside to that was the trackpad experience on laptops. So if you guys are running it off a laptop, I highly recommend even just spending like $12 for a mouse. But my laptop was running things fine. It's just when you start to maybe visit spaces like this, right?
Yeah.
That, I mean, I don't know how many pieces are in here. There's only 1,000, but there's 13 gigabytes.
Only 1,000 pieces. That's pretty epic though.
Well, so I've been in spaces with 14,000.
Holy.
Right. So this has 13 gigabytes. The limit right now is around 2. So the moment you hit that 2 gigabyte, it's not like a limit, but threshold is when the performance of your space is going to start to go down. So I'd say anything under that 2 gig limit, you're fine on a laptop, and then it starts to get a little questionable when you get past that.
Right. That's good to know, bro. And just want to showcase some of the people we have in here. People are asking some good questions. Guri says again, yeah, renting is a great option. If I could rent for 2 to 5 gems a week, that would be so cool. Allow me to see if I want to buy it for keeps. So I mean, that makes sense. If you're thinking of like a $400 or $500 purchase, and like you can just rent it out for 2-3 weeks, see if it's like worth it for you. Do you see that being feasible?
Yeah, absolutely. And what's cool about this is MC, before he got hired, he made this comment already, is he posted a photo of him. I think he was like visiting family or something like that. And it was a photo of a park across the street. And he said, oh, I wish I could just rent a T-Rex or something like that so I could take a photo of it in AR in this park across the street. Right. And this was like, maybe this was over a year and a half ago or something like that. So there are people there, because this is definitely a topic where I think some people might hear it and go, well, I'd never rent a collectible. I'd never spend gems on that. But there's definitely a market out there. Like there's definitely people out there who are willing to spend the gems on that. So yeah, I completely agree with Curry's point.
That's really cool, bro. Another person says, have you thought about making an open space you can sell land in? You can build your own world and then give paid users a full access. So I think what this person means is like, let's say you build now an apartment complex as an example, and you have 25 of these that you've built out, and they're all within the same Veveverse. And then somebody then pays for like that room, to you. Is that like shooting for the stars? Is that possible? Or like
right now it wouldn't be, but that idea has been in my head for quite a while. And that is why I want them to introduce the grouping of objects so you can duplicate stuff, is because if I build out a house, for example, I can now duplicate that house and make a neighborhood and then give people a house. Like members on my channel, for example, can get a house in the neighborhood or something like that. Right.
Damn.
So that would be cool. Right now, because of the space restrictions, you can't do that. So it's not possible. But one thing I've thought about to kind of get around that is VeVe could introduce a ownership feature. So if I go to invite somebody into my space here, I click invite, then just click on some random person here. So it now gives me the option of giving them certain roles, right? So I can give this person a visitor role. So if they join, they can't move or edit anything. They can just come in and view, right? If they give them creator access, they can change some stuff. But what if VeVe had owner here as well? So if I build out, let's say, 3 small spaces, 3 medium size houses, and then, 3 very big mansions or something like that, and people want to buy them off me, then all I need to do after I've built those spaces out is I just go up to the top of my screen in the top left here, I duplicate the space, and then I just transfer them ownership so they can start placing their collectibles. Damn. So now what I can do is I can create little templates and sell the templates to people who want the spaces and then make them their own.
Dude, this is remarkable, man.
And I got part of that actually from Frank Kozik, because I remember him talking on stage at DCon about how, he saw his VeVe collectibles as like the starting stage for people, where he created the characters and the IP, he allowed people to collect them, but then it's up to the collectors in terms of what they do with them in the Veveverse. So it's like Frank created the starting point for the collectors, and then the collectors create the ending point with his product, if that kind of makes sense.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'll be honest, there's a lot more, like, you're really opening up my mind. There's a lot more opportunity than I anticipated. I'm just thinking back to our earlier conversation, like, what if you are able to duplicate, you have these spaces, and instead of just like somebody paying you outright to own it for whatever that amount's going to be, they just rent it from you, right? And then if you get bored of that space, I could just like be like, hey, like, I want to try out a new Veveverse, or I want to try out a new place. Because I'll be honest, like, even for my channel, like, I'd easily just rent one of these spaces from you and just plug things in. I'm just thinking about that, because I'm like, that might be another.
Yeah, absolutely. And you could even take that further in terms of like how you would rent it out, right? Like whether you want to pay OMI, fiat, or MCP points. I think MCP, that's an interesting topic of discussion, because there's limited ways to spend those right now, and there's a lot of collectors on the platform who are just racking them up. So if you provide more ways to spend those, then that could be appealing as well.
That's really cool. I love that. Give people the option too. It might be easier for somebody to do it in OMI, or like you said, MCP, you got excess points around.
Yeah.
But I think the cool part, man, is like, and that's why, like, I could just see this continuing to grow and grow and grow. And like, I don't know, like, I feel like this has really just added a layer of depth now, where it just makes everything way more interesting, because you're not just buying a collectible because it's based on value or what you think, like at first appearance. You're buying it because of how it's going to look in your Veveverse, or what it's going to get you in terms of showcase, in terms of clubs that you might belong to.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then VeVe just commented, bro, they said, a great conversation like this goes well with the surprise giveaway. We would love to provide one for you and your audience today. Okay, that's awesome.
Let's
VeVe.
go.
Thank you, guys. Let's hit it. I think because I don't have anything pulled up in terms of like that random pattern generator to pick somebody random, what we'll do is like near the end is maybe just like ask a question, Josh. We can kind of come up with something.
Sure.
And the first person to answer will just get that prize.
Let's do it.
What do you think of that?
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good.
And we got 122 people on right now, man. So
wow.
Yeah, it's a busier stream than I thought. People are excited to see you, brother. People are saying he definitely deserves a seat at the VeVe table. I like his imagination. And guys, if you haven't followed Collectors Gone Digital, just go follow him right now. The link is in the description, and it's easy to access. He's all over VeVe, and he's got a ton of other stuff. I saw you have like a website. You're on multiple social profiles. So lots of cool things he's doing for us.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So this guy says, Pasternak 88, I really want to add my Candy Digital DC Comics and McFarlane collection to Veveverse. What does that look like? Do you know what that is? It safeguarded right now?
Oh, that would be incredible. Right now we can't.
Yeah.
And to that point, I'd probably say to VeVe, maybe focus on just importing the rest of your collectibles first, because there's still pieces from like season 1 that aren't in the Veveverse. So once they get to that point, I think it would be awesome for them to introduce other brands that are already on the brands tab within VeVe, like Almonex, London Police, right? Their pieces that they have outside of VeVe's ecosystem, I think should be able to be brought in, like the Mona Lisa from Elmonex, right? That would be absolutely incredible. So, yeah, I to that point, I would love to see that stuff in. I just think that they should prioritize their own collectibles first.
Yeah, like you said, I think that's like, it'd be cool in the future, but like for now, I like there's so much to go around here internally, you know. But dude, I don't know if you've seen this. One thing that a lot of people continue to discuss is just how slow the actual app is. I've been having kind of issues with it too, because sometimes I just want to scroll randomly without actually having to search something, because I want something to surprise me. I want to see something that like, oh, I haven't considered this, or like this might be valuable or whatever. Like, what's your take on that? Because it seems like, from what I understood, they had to make the switch with the app in order for the Veveverse or something to run better. But what do you think?
I don't entirely know what's happening on the back end. I would assume that the slow speeds has to do with like storage or their servers or something, which would be more money for them to upgrade all that. So the speed is definitely an issue. Like for me, I haven't been buying too much on the app. I guess I've been picking up recently now, but my strategy was, before the Veveverse launched, I wasn't really picking up many pieces, because I knew that as soon as the Veveverse did launch, there was going to be so many ideas coming in my head that, you know, I'd want that piece and this piece. So I waited for that to happen. And then when I got in, I realized that some of the pieces that I wanted to see in there aren't in there yet. So I've been a little hesitant now to pick up some of the pieces I've wanted, because they just haven't been imported yet. And I mentioned in the WebV space yesterday that there were some purchases that I made that I thought were imported into the Veveverse that haven't been yet. So there was a Star Wars poster I bought 2 days ago that I wanted to use on a wall that I'm still waiting now to be imported. So yeah, I'm a little hesitant right now to buy, and it's mainly just for that reason. So
yeah, interesting, bro. And would you say that, you know, the people that are collecting grails and that are like just focused on those, like, you know, big ticket items, you know, what do you think looks more badass now? Like, is it almost better to have just like a large amount of collectibles that you can showcase in the Veveverse? Or is it like, do you think having like spotlights around like some of these really key pieces would be the thing that draws people attention? Or is it a mix? Or like, just what do you think that like healthy balance looks like? You know, like what, like, is it like that the coolest stuff is going to drive interest, or is it like the most scarce? Like what is there any been ideas of like that have changed your perspective on this?
I think it's going to depend most on what that person values most, whether it's like mint numbers, collectibles versus comics. But I was talking with California Comics in his space about this 2 days ago. When I walked by one of the comics on his wall, it was a really good mint number, and it was like 3,000 in the market or something like that. But I didn't know that, right? Because it was a Marvel Comics #1, right? I know the comic, released in 1939, first ever comic, worth a lot, right? But I didn't know it was that specific mint number. So when I was walking by, the value could have been greater, but it wasn't really shown. So I think a really good way to build more value around these pieces is adding features like, hey, you know, you can display your mint number right next to it. And you can, in a way, right now, like you can put a whiteboard if you got the feature and you can write out the mint number. It's just that becomes super tedious and it takes up more space in your space as well. So if they introduce little things like, when you drop a collectible, you can also have the option of displaying the mint number to the right or left of it, right? Just toggle that on or off, kind of like a frame, which you can already do, because when you place a comic in the Veveverse, there's going to be a frame around it, and then you can right click and toggle the frame on or off if you don't want it, right? So they can do the same thing with mint numbers. And if they do that, and I walk by that comic again, right, there's going to be more value built, because I know that it's that specific mint number. It's not just another Marvel Comics, another one of the 60,000 or whatever, right? So I think little features like that are very important to build value. Yeah.
Man, I love that point, and I feel like that would completely secure the interest on mint hunting and mint like I feel as though like all these guys that like, for instance, like you said it perfectly, like you walk in to somebody's showroom and you see Rizzo, you see Becky, you see like all, you know, Todd all sitting like in a row, and you're like, oh, that's cool. And then you see they're all number 40 and you're like, oh my God, like this is
exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
And another point as well is, if I walk into a space and all of those pieces are in the space, that's cool. But if they're displayed in a very creative and unique way, that's also going to add more value. So it comes back to your point with builders earlier on in the stream, where if you can be super creative and think outside the box and do things inside your space that nobody else is going to do, you can have just a standard collectible there. But because of the way that you're showing it, it builds more value, right?
Right. Wow. I feel like this is just going to be so interesting. Like I'm just thinking of some of these like whales that I know that have like crazy mints, crazy collectibles, and I'm like, if that was to be married, honestly, bro, like I feel like I would love to just be inside that Veveverse and like just check it out and be like, like that's that, and like you said, the one that you're building for that guy, that's like the second most or collectibles on the app. He has everything. Like it would be so neat to do something that's so exclusive. Like you get into a room and it's only like the one of ones or like the one of tens that are there, and you're like seeing things that you will never see again. You know,
exactly.
Like that would be museum, bro.
Yeah, it's so cool. And I don't know if VeVe would ever go this route, but they could go the token gated route where you have aspects of your map that are locked. So if I go into VR chat, then I can. Are you familiar with VR chat at all?
A little bit. I kind of teased with it. That was with the MetaQuest and everything, right?
Yeah.
So
worlds that you can experience just on your desktop or in VR, but creators will make the worlds, and then if they have, let's say, like a paid Patreon or Discord or something, then everybody in that group will get access to this locked door in the world that nobody else can open.
Oh my God!
If you're not a paid member, right? So the same thing I think can happen in the Veveverse, where if somebody wants to go into Dr. Fuse's space and go into that room where it has a bunch of the one of ones or whatever, right? Maybe he has like a paid group, right? And only those members can access that room. So
that's a great idea, man. You're full of ideas, brother. Another idea here we got from Digital Toys is MCP program is all about those perks. Top 5 ranks, we get special ways to display mint numbers. Like that's pretty sick. Like if you're, I don't know, like over like level 75, all of a sudden now the way that you can display mint numbers is like more like, instead of it just being like, I don't know, like 2D, it's like now 3D. And like it comes up from the floor and it like rotates the mint. Like, I don't know. Right.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many cool things to do.
That's the thing, man, is it's, if I was on that team, I'd be very overwhelmed because there's so many ideas and you got to narrow down what you want to focus on. Right. Because that's the hardest thing, is that you're going to be focused on a list of things that they need to work on. And I bet you, as they're focused on, that list, there's going to be a million other ideas that pop into their head as they're focused on it. So it's like, you got to stay, in line, and that's very difficult to do. So
yeah. And that's the problem too. Like there's probably like 1,000,001 things that VeVe has in their game plan that they need to accomplish. And it's like, hey, we also want this with mint numbers. And it's like, guys, like we're focusing on the app getting faster. We're focusing on this licensor. Like there's just so many things that are probably playing on Ben's mind right now. So this is actually a good question. So people are saying like, any idea how the mobile Veveverse will pan out, Josh? Because on one end, I'm like, I'm hearing about the size of your computer and how much, processing power is needed to really make this awesome. Like, do you think, a mobile Veveverse, people can build on it and their phone and it would like actually work? Or is it like more just like a version of it? Like, how do you think that's going to work?
Okay, so if I was on the team, what I would probably focus on for the mobile app is more of the social stuff.
Right.
Because if you go into like the mobile vault right now, you can only build so much before your phone starts to heat up. So in my head, I'm like, okay, well, how far can they kind of go past that? Right.
Yeah.
So there's already very limited space restrictions on the PC. So I would imagine that would only be worse on your mobile. So I would focus more on the social features where people can join spaces, interact with other people. There might be some building tools, but not as much. And yeah, and that's typically how that stuff will go, right? Like if you look at Fortnite has the mobile app of their game as well, but it's a lot more limited. Lower graphics. It might have the same maps, but if you go into a map on PC, it'll have more elements within that map. Whereas if you go into mobile, it'll take certain elements of the world out, so it's easier to process. So yeah, I think it's going to be a simpler version of what we already have on the PC. But I wouldn't have too high of expectations for that, if I'm completely honest.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect answer. And I mean, it makes so much sense with the capacity issues. And like you said, if it's already modeled on things that have already been so successful and you see the limitations via mobile, like it makes perfect sense too.
Yeah. I don't know where their plans are with the whole cloud stuff, because I know they had that on their roadmap a while back. So I don't know if any of that stuff plays into the mobile side of things, but I feel like for me, at least, I'm a builder. I'm always going to be on the PC version. So mobile isn't really a focus of mine at all.
Wow. And that's what I find interesting too, is like, because like, you know, you also have like more of an advanced computer. I feel like it's very few people that maybe would have like the same access to really build things that are elaborate and unique, because I feel as though like there's the extent of what they could do with a normal computer probably is not as much, right?
Let me go into casual space here. So
Okay.
Casual built his on like I think it's a laptop. I might be wrong.
Yeah.
But a lower version than what I got. And he asked me to hop in yesterday just to see how it was running.
Oh, cool.
Because on his PC, it's laggy, like it's slow.
Yeah.
So I'll show you guys this one because it's a really good example. It's a smaller world. It's just he focuses a lot on the smaller details.
Wow.
And then he also has moving elements as well. So a world like this is going to be, I think, close to that threshold. Once everything loads for me, my PC runs this completely fine. Like it's not lagging at all.
Yeah.
But for someone like casual, it's quite slow. So
Wow. I could even see like as you walked into this, it's like 20 seconds and all these things are like loading. Now it looks almost loaded, right?
So yeah, to your point, 20 seconds for me, it's about 5 minutes for casual.
Wow. Yeah.
So, and then now my PC's fine, right? Like I can look around, it's not laggy at all.
Yeah. Pretty sexy space here, man. I'm getting excited. I like, you know, we've had a busy year financially, my wife and I'm like, I want to go on vacation, and I'm seeing all these spots, and I'm like, man, like I need to be here. I need to be in your shit. This looks cool though.
Yeah. So I got to give him his flowers, because this is one of the nicest spaces I've personally seen.
Yeah.
If you look out here, he actually has the waves moving.
Crazy. So how did he do that?
So there's a feature. He gave me creator access, so I can show you guys.
Oh, this is sick. Look at this, guys. We're getting behind the scenes tech information here. But people are saying you're killing it. They're like, this guy should be part of the team. I'm like, I'm totally for that.
I appreciate it, guys. But right here, you guys can see he has a setting turned on. You see these numbers moving.
Yeah.
So these are the advanced settings. I'm still trying to learn some of them, but what he's pretty much telling the piece to do is move from point A to B and then just repeat. So it kind of loops back and forth. Or sorry, not loops, it bounces back and forth. So you'll see the waves kind of going forward and then backwards.
Jeez.
But such a little change like that adds so much, because now if you look at the moon in the sky, you see the light in the water actually moving, which adds so much to the environment, right?
Oh
if I go over to the dock and I look at the lights here, the lights are moving in the water because the bottom part's actually moving. Yeah. So if this wasn't moving, you wouldn't have this entire, you wouldn't have the same atmosphere. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got you. It adds so much, dude, to like, and I'm just going to be honest, bro. Just like my brand is like black and purple. So this shit speaks to me. Like, I'm just like looking at that water. I'm like, oh, this would be a space that I'd be like, okay, this kind of like, you know, NFT pirates. You got like, I might want to put in a big friggin' like pirate ship in the background. Like just, right. We got like
see this
little like, imagine that as a pirate ship. Like that's, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah. Wow. He did a fantastic job. The lighting and everything in this world is just spot on.
Yeah.
Spot on. Wow. But to be honest, I can't remember if I answered your first question or not. Hopefully I did.
Dude, I feel like you've been answering so many of my questions. I'm just happy that we're here exploring this together. Like, this is crazy.
It's amazing, right?
Oh man. And so these are like almost like those relaxing, almost like those beanbag chairs, but like inverted.
He
That
did
like,
such a good job. He built this in a week too. So super
wow.
impressive. There's
And
not
what's
too
his
many.
name again?
Casual.
Oh, Casual. Okay. Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I know him. That's so cool.
Yeah, he did a great job. And then he has like a little tunnel over here as well
Oh, that's sick.
that goes through to like this dock. Got the Ursula. From the
Oh my
villains.
god, man. That's so
Yeah.
dope.
See, and little details like that is what sets you apart, because just the amount of features and settings in this platform, you're never going to come across the same thing twice, ever.
Yeah.
It's always
Wow.
going to be something different in some way. And that's what's so exciting about it, because, 2 years from now, we're going to have creators figuring out things that they just found out.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
The learning curve will never stop. So,
And that's what's so sick is like you guys are a community learning from each other. Like you might be able to do things that like nobody else, like who knows where this is going to go, right? Like this might be so advanced and so good eventually that like I don't know, like it's going to be the epitome of what digital collectors can do and showcase.
yeah, and they're also introducing new stuff over time, right? Which opens more doors.
Yeah.
One thing that they just fixed, which I'm very happy about, is in the beta for the longest time when you added a skybox, there's a feature here where you can rotate the skybox, and this wasn't working. They just fixed it. So if I put in a skybox now, what I can actually do is animate the skybox so that the entire environment is moving.
Holy.
So what I do is I'll go to rotation here. Here, I'll put like an object down so you guys can actually tell that it's moving.
That's insane.
Scotty Young. And then what I'll do is I'll do approach. And then we'll go from 0 to 300. Oh, I already have a setup. But now the entire skybox is rotating. So it looks like you're floating in space.
Oh my god.
And this is something that I haven't seen people utilize yet because it just got fixed.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to start seeing some cool stuff with this. Once they start adding more skyboxes, though, because this one technically isn't in there yet. But
buddy, this is so sick.
Yeah.
Holy man. Like the amount of things that is going on here, it's like I'm really happy, dude, that you're able to take some time and chat with me because
of course.
I'll be honest, like just when you start from like when you don't have a ton of time, and this is what I fear is going on with a lot of people is they just don't have the time to like really get good at this and understand it. But like just being able to sit down with you for like an hour like this and see how not easy, but see how like this all works, it's getting me hyped. Like I think I would rather do this than play video games because you're actually working on something that's gonna add value, but it has that like game-ish component to it. I don't know, right? Like
I've been saying the same thing, man. Like that's why I was so excited about the Veveverse. Is leading up, people were like, "Oh, it's not a game," and yeah, it's not first-person shooting or anything like that. But you're walking around with a virtual avatar and you're controlling virtual elements. It's a game, right? Yeah. And that's what it now feels like for me. Is I get to work while gaming. Like it feels so cool. It doesn't feel like work. You know what I mean? It feels like I'm waking up and wasting my life in the Veveverse, but in reality, I'm being commissioned to do what I'm doing. So it's like awesome.
So if you don't mind me asking, like, is the commission-based stuff potentially in the future enough to sustain like an income where you wouldn't have to work outside of VeVe? Or is it kind of like definitely?
I won't say the number, but it like the first space that I'm building out is for a very healthy amount. Like I can pay my rent several times with it, but it's like I come back to like I have a scaling issue, which is like I can only get 1, maybe 2 done in a month, right? So I can only and right now I can also only charge so much because there's only so much demand, and I've only built so many spaces. So I don't know if the demand is going to be the same 5 months from now. Hype's pretty high right now because it just launched and people want spaces, but is that going to be the same thing five months from now? I don't know. So right now, like the number that I signed for the first world is very good. And if I keep signing people at that amount, I could do it full time right now. So,
man, bro, get me in a training tutorial ASAP, man. I don't want to be commuting to Toronto anymore. You know how bad that is.
It's bad. It's getting real bad. That 403, dude, I remember when I was a kid versus now, it's night and day, the traffic. It can take you like 3 hours to get out of the city sometimes.
It is
too
bro.
much. It's
too much. Like for me right now, I only go in twice a week, but it's like about an hour 50 one way. So that's like 8 hours of my life being taken away from me every week. And like, who knows if they're going to want me to come in the office more. So like when I think about this and the opportunity here, and what's so fucking good is that this is kind of, we're at like an all-time low in terms of interest, but we know that the future is going digital. We know that like, you know, Disney's coming out with their own metaverse. And so like VeVe's already positioned in a place where they have all these premium digital collectibles. They now have this whole engine running the Veveverse behind it. Like, I don't know, man, if you're already at that point now where it's like unsustainable, like if we get all these new users and like it continues to develop, like I feel as though there'd be so many other opportunities, like even like California Comics with his comic shop. Like, I don't know, right? Like there's going to be new ideas, but I'm so happy to hear that.
Yeah, and shout out to California because there's something that in the works with that shop, I will say. Some more details to come, but
cool.
The potential right now for ventures inside the Veveverse is like at an all-time high. If you're somebody who's ambitious and willing to take action and you got some ideas, like the Veveverse is a tool where you can get from A to B. Like you can use it as a vehicle to get to where you want. Like even just outside of the work that I'm getting paid to do, I'm using it also as a tool for my own content now, because like my thumbnails for my videos, I used to create inside Blender. Here, I'll open it up.
Oh my God, this is cool, bro.
What's up?
Man, everybody's loving this, man. Great to see Chad and Josh together. Amazing to hear. So happy for you, Josh. 2 legends in one space. This guy says, Stan says, yep, the guest upped the value of the Veveverse alone. I am sold.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Open that. Am I just? I'm just sharing the one screen. One sec.
Yeah, man. I'm just like really, really happy where the future is now. And I was, you know, pretty hesitant, right? Because we've been talking about the Veveverse for like, you know, 3+ years.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's so cool that they delivered and that they delivered a good product, you know. So
yeah.
Oh, cool. This is Blender here, eh?
Yeah, so this is Blender. So this is where I would make my thumbnails, right? So I got the 3D file from Fortnite.
Wow.
Shout out to Sven, because I would have never found this thing if it weren't for him. But so what I do is it's just like a rigged model. So I'll go to pose mode here, and then you can take like each part of the model and move it around. And because it's rigged, like the whole arm will move.
Yeah. Damn.
One sec.
If rigging takes forever, eh? Like that's a.
Yeah, I didn't rig this model. I just downloaded it. So
cool.
It'll freaking let me here. My mouse is bugging out on me.
It's probably also because there's so many things happening at once here, you know.
That might also be it. I'll just open one that I've already done.
You know what is funny, man? I'm really loving these lives. Like we got 180 people in here.
Oh, wow.
You know, yeah, like people are just like able to contribute to the conversation. Like I feel like it's better than these pre-recorded. Like this is cool. Yeah. Oh, I see. So this is how you moved them around.
Yeah, so moved them around, and then I got the little virtual camera right here, and then that'll take the shot. And then I just bring it over into Canva and finish the thumbnail. But the point I was trying to get at is I can do all of this now in the Veveverse, right?
Wow.
I can't move the character to like a specific pose, but I can still put the character into an environment here where, let's say I'll put down a ground plane. So there's a floor.
Yeah.
Take this out. We'll put, say the Black Panther collectible. And then if I take a light here, put it down.
Wow. Love how you're doing this in real time for us.
So you can move this over, and now the scene will come to life when I go to space properties and I turn the skybox down to 0. Take this away. and boom.
Holy shit.
So, right. So now I can take screenshots. I can create a full thumbnail from this. And this is just like one example of black background, but you can do like, you can build like a little scene here where you put like a base down, put some trees up, and then,
buddy,
you know, take the shot. So
that is sexy, man.
Yeah.
Like that is like, that's how I'd want my place to look, is like all kind of like blacked out with just these like little spotlights everywhere. Like that's so cool.
And to take it a step further, me and Rob, a friend of mine in the community, Robbie's Matrix, him and I built out, oops, I think the skybox is still at 0. We built out a production studio for taking shots. So we got a green screen, a white wall, black room.
Wow. Wow. That's so crazy. It's like you're operating a world within the world, dude. Like you're like created a studio to take shots. Like, look at that. That's insane. Wow.
Space properties. But yeah, there's so much that you can do. And like from a content creation standpoint, I mean, you can build a stage, right? And take like your show that happens on a weekly basis and bring it into the Veveverse and have a stage with a live audience, right? With their avatars in the audience.
Oh my God. Like,
so,
I even think for me, like, let's say there's a new collectible that drops that I want to showcase and I want a sick thumbnail. I'm like, hey, can you just, you know, here's 5 gems, take a picture of it for me, like, you know, send it over. Like, I don't know. Like, that's so cool.
Yeah. That's another angle too. I didn't even think about that, but
wow.
Yeah.
No way, the GOAT. Everybody, you're the GOAT. Everyone's calling you the GOAT now. This is crazy, man. And so here's a question for you too, because this is important to me. Because like, let's say, you know, the Veveverse, it's just kind of like this niche thing that doesn't pan out. Do you think these skills would be transferable, where like not only is it that you're building stuff like metaverses, but that these skills of like thinking outside the box, thinking about business, thinking about opportunity, then could translate, let's say, if Disney's metaverse becomes a thing, or if like, you know, there's in the 5-10 years from now, we're all operating on like one of 2 major metaverses. Like how, like, what do you think of that? Or do you think this is so unique that it like wouldn't be transferable?
No, I think it's extremely transferable. And if anything, I actually think it's helping people get involved in other tools like Unity or Unreal Engine. Because this is a tool where you can, I mean, you can create like a little mini game by animating certain pieces and making them go back and forth and stuff. And that's like very beginning stages of game development, right? And if you want to get like past that point, then you would just hop over to an Unreal Engine where you have more capabilities now. So it's a really good starting point. And this has been a thought on my mind a little bit, because people keep calling this a metaverse, and I don't really look at it as a metaverse, if I'm completely honest.
I appreciate that. I was going to ask you that distinction.
I look at it more as like a design tool right now. It's a design tool with some social features, but oh, it's not responding. I might crash here, but right now, if I was to go and build a world for VR chat, I'm doing that inside of Unity. And then what I do is I publish the map from Unity that goes over to VR chat, right? Right now, the Veveverse feels like the tool that you would build for the worlds. The Veveverse doesn't feel like the social part of the Veveverse, if that makes sense, right? It feels like it's just the building tool right now. So, and it's the same thing with Fortnite. So I'll open Unreal Engine here. Let me close Blender so it's not too much going on.
Cool.
But Unreal Engine is the same with Fortnite, where I use Unreal Engine with Fortnite's plugin that gives me all of Fortnite's assets to build maps with. But then I publish it from Unreal Engine, and that map goes over to the Fortnite platform.
Okay.
And Fortnite's the game, right?
Wow.
So right now, the Veveverse feels like the back end. It doesn't feel like the front end.
Got you.
And another part of that is right now, if I was to place, let's say, if I go to library, I go to lights. If I was to place a directional light, right?
Yeah.
These arrows show up for me. In the back end of the Veveverse, or in the back end of, let's say, building a map for VR chat, you're going to see the same thing. But when you publish the map, that disappears. So the player, the user of the world, doesn't actually see it. right?
I
Whereas,
see.
so right now it feels like everybody's a developer, like a world, like a map builder. It doesn't
Yeah.
feel like you're the user of the Veveverse, if that makes sense.
That does make a lot of sense. I see what you're saying, and so like I think what I'm happy about is at least at least they got something out there, because I feel like back in the day it was so elaborate. It was almost going to be like this open world, like almost like GTA 6 style, the way they were talking.
Yeah.
We'll have a museum. Chad's house will be here. Everybody's going to have this huge interactive place where it's like, you're like driving around or you're flying in a helicopter and like you're, going 10 miles, relative to wherever things are kind of situated.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, this seems like, whoa, this is a huge vision. So I'm happy that they started here. And it's nice to know that there's still progress being made. Do you think we're going to get to that open world kind of concept where it's like you can have your own design tools and your own spaces, but they're actually going to have one huge VeVeverse that's going to have like all the users in it? Like, let's say like, 4,000 houses and like different suburbs and like, here's VeVe City, and like you go in and it's like, or is that just such a pipe dream that it's like impossible because of like capacity issues and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just that space limitation. It's because eventually I would like to get to that point. I think it would be beneficial for VeVe as well, right? Like having a communal space where people can join and there's 100 other people in the space would be awesome, right? I think it's more of like issues with infrastructure that's preventing them from doing that right now. But I'm hoping that, eventually we get to that point where it's like portals between worlds or something like that, instead of having to go back to the dashboard or.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I could just see that, like, if people are already paying all this money for like creating their own space, imagine creating their own house that's like 10 times bigger in the Veveverse, and they have their own land that's bigger and they're showcasing all these crazy things. Like they would stand out and stick out like a sore thumb, right? Like
exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what are we looking at here? This is
so
cool.
Right here is Fortnite. It's Builder.
Okay.
So I'm technically in Unreal Engine, but I have what's like it's like a Fortnite SDK or like a plugin, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But all of these folders are assets from maps that they've built in the past. So anytime that they release new maps in Fortnite, they will release a folder with all of the assets that they use to create that map for the map builders now. So if I open this, I have a bunch of assets that I can now just drag and drop into the worlds. I'm too far away again. Yeah, my screen is bugging out. But anyways, you guys can see all the assets right here, right? So bridges, like this, and this is all just one folder. I can go to Arctic Base, and then there's a whole other, library here. But you just drag and drop it, right? And right now, this is what the Veveverse feels like. It feels like a tool like this. But then when I'm done, I would go to launch session up at the top here, right, to go and publish the map. I would have to go through like an approval system, fill out like a questionnaire to make sure there's nothing inappropriate in the map or anything like that. And then once it gets approved, it gets published. And now I can open up Fortnite, which is a game, and my map will be in that game.
Okay.
Right.
I got you. Yeah.
So the point I was trying to get at is that the Veveverse feels a lot like this tool right now. There is no front end. And I think that, if somebody's in a Veveverse world, they should be able to run around. They shouldn't be able to fly around. That's a building feature, right?
Yeah.
If I go into that first world that I showed here, High Rise, I'll load back into it. If I fly as a user of that map who never built it, I can just fly right outside the map. And then it's just like a jumble of walls and everything like that, right? In VR chat or Fortnite, you can't do that. You can't do that.
Oh, that's perfectly said.
Right?
Yeah. Because you want to have that seamless, very professional look and feel for the people walking in. Mm-hmm. You don't want them to all of a sudden, like you said, go and escape accidentally. And they're now like, what do I do, Josh? Like, how do I get back to the balcony or something? Like, what I'm trying to say?
And here would be the perfect example too. I'm loading in and I load into the elevator.
Yeah.
But I have a sign that's going to pop up and it says, please make sure you're in first person mode when you're walking around. But I have to put that down. Otherwise, people are going to be flying around and through walls and, all this stuff. And the experience isn't going to be the same. They're not going to feel like they're in an apartment because they're flying outside of it and seeing how it's all made. It's not the same thing, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. A lot of people too are saying like, I can't wait to find out about premium. Like, what's that gonna do compared to like, I guess like the normal version? Like what are we getting that's additional?
So I have some premium features toggled right now. I
Yeah.
think those in the who just have the free version have just the moving, interacting, and texturing tools.
Okay.
So I have a drawing tool which allows me to draw on like walls and stuff.
Wow.
I have a typing tool which allows me to do the same thing, just typing. And then I also have a measurement and a pointer. So if I click this, I can like point around if I'm doing presentations and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know why those are premium features right now. In my personal opinion, I think everything I just showed there should be free.
Yeah.
But from my understanding, I think they're also going to be adding more skyboxes for premium, possibly more textures. And then I think there was also talk about how you'll be able to have more than 30 people in a space, whereas the free version
Okay.
right now limits it to 30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that will be a huge asset too, right? Because then it's like I think about that guy you're building a space for. Like imagine having his debut and like he has like 180 people come in, all his friends, like and
Mhm.
it's like that makes like that's pretty cool. So I feel like there'll be enough there. Um, this person says, I created my space for third person interreactive. If you fly in my space, it loses the fun. And somebody else says, we need gravity also and avatar being able to jump.
Yeah, that's a big thing. It's not an easy
Yeah.
thing to implement at this point, but it's definitely crucial. They need to do that for sure.
Yeah.
I was
So
going to say something else, but it crossed my mind.
yeah. And like, what do you think about the future here, Josh? Like, do you think that this is really a tool for just the people that are already here and it's just like a more fun way to showcase things? Or do you see this as like because of this added element, people being interested in buying things because they can build? Like, do you think there's enough interest in these builders that are like, oh, I want to join the Veveverse because now I can do things? Or is it really just like a smaller niche of the niche community we already have? Do you know what I mean?
It's a niche within a niche for sure.
Yeah.
Which is why like more social stuff is going to help. That's also why like what I was just talking about, like the front and the back end, like you really need to have a front end because like we need to make users feel like they're inside of the Veveverse, not like the tool to make the worlds. And that's what it feels like right now. So if I like after WebV yesterday, I hopped into VR chat with OBL, Orange Bag Lady, and Casual. And, I hop into VR chat. I join their space. I don't need to send them a DM or anything being like, hey, invite me to your space. I
Yeah.
join them, right? And then at the moment I'm in there, I'm talking, interacting with them. The first, pardon me, the first world I actually joined was a drawing world. So OBL and Casual were like painting on the wall and stuff in VR, right? So it's little things like that that are going to keep around like most people, because most people aren't into the building aspect like me.
Yeah.
I've put out like videos of me showing different like furniture builds, and I've gotten comments being like, "Oh, dude, you're actually kind of like unmotivating me because you're showing me how much work actually goes into building these things." Right. So it's definitely a niche for sure.
Okay, that's good to know, man. Yeah. So I feel as though maybe if they polish more things up, they give you more opportunities. Like I know they just did that like that template for your own space, which I think was cool. So you just throw collectibles in there.
Mhm.
But it'd be cool if they give you like 10 to 30 different spaces, like a Batman space, a Marvel space, like just like something where it just becomes more interesting for the average user.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have okay, so I have an opinion on this, and I have a feeling I could be completely wrong, but I have a feeling that these showrooms are already built out, like Marvel showroom and Disney's and stuff. And I think that the main reason why we haven't been introduced to them is because of this space limit. Like a licensor isn't going to want that. Disney isn't going to want 30 people in their space. They're going to want 300 or more, right?
Yeah.
Same with Marvel. So, and they've also talked about how, I think it was Anaheim when they were doing the unveiling originally. There were people like Foster who put on the headset and saw a Marvel showroom.
Wow.
Right. So I don't know if that was just a showroom that Dan built out or if it was something branded for Marvel, but I think the team would be kind of foolish if they didn't build out like branded spaces with their licensors. And I'm actually working with one right now, Big Shot, Klim from Big Shot Toys, the Nounish series. We're gonna build out a space for him for Decon. But again, and that brings me to another topic, is like they got to build out these spaces for licensors, but they also got to make sure that the licensors' collectibles are in the Veveverse, because I'm working with Klim and his collectibles aren't even in there yet. So, yeah, I mean, that's a hurdle in and of itself too. So, but yeah, I have a few. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, sorry to cut you off. I was going to say, like, that's the thing with pioneering, man. It's all so new, right? Like, it's like there's no way it's not like there's a blueprint. Yeah.
That's the hard thing with the pricing, is like I don't have a website to go to and like do price comparisons and stuff. I got to try and figure it out based off how many people are coming to me, and then how many people are being like, no, that's too much or too little. And I've had offers like way up here, and then I've had offers like way down here. So there's a big space in between. But
how crazy is that? So that's like, you're almost like establishing a brand new market in the world. Like, is there any other places that people are already doing this? Like, where they're building out spaces like in Sandbox or like any like Fortnite, and they're like charging people? Like, how does is this like,
there's full businesses and agencies inside Fortnite for map building. So one of the largest YouTubers on that platform, it's like Cypher something. He works with a third-party agency to build all of his maps. So he'll pay them like a lump sum to create the map. I'm sure there's probably like a deal where they'll get like a percentage of the recurring revenue. But the map, like whoever owns the map will get paid out based off how many active users are inside the world, which I think we could potentially go down down that road with VeVe as well. Because there's going to be certain map builders that make names for themselves, release maps, and then those people go in and go, hey, CGD just launched a new map or whatever. And that was part of the reason why I created that list of VeVe usernames. So I put out a post asking for people to submit their username, because every single time I drop a map, I'm going to invite, there's like 150 names on the list now. I'm going to have to manually put in 150 different invites to the map.
Wow.
Right. And that's going to help create a presence for me. So in the future, when I've established a bit of a, stronger name for myself as a map builder, and more people come into the community, they're going to go, okay, who's this guy? Right. And then they're going to come to me, and the cycle kind of repeats.
Exactly. And like, you'll have a reputation. It's also good that like you're, such a kind of a social influencer too. So people like can trust you. They know who you are. Like that's the thing, like your credibility, like if anything happened, is on the line. So it's like, there's a lot of things in your favor, right? Like, where it's not just like, that's the thing about crypto, bro. It's like sometimes this under the cover guy that's on X, he's got 4 followers, and like, and you're like, hey, who the fuck is this guy? He's like, but he could be potentially build great stuff. But I think people will trust people like yourself, like influencers and people that already have that reputation. So I think that's really cool, man. Like, we got some other stuff here coming in. What I seen on the Oculus at CC, it looked like museum style space with long hallways, and I guess so maybe there already is something, like you said, that they're just waiting for.
Yeah, that's the I think he's referring to Anaheim when people were putting on the headsets.
Okay.
I mean, that's one of the first things that come to mind. If I'm on VeVe's team, right, and I'm building out a virtual space, like one of the first things that comes to mind is go to the licensors, right?
Yeah.
Go to the people that provide the offerings for your platform. So, So
what do you think? What do you think about the Disney Metaverse? Like, do you think there is that association with VeVe? I want to give you a few points why I think it is, but I just want to hear your thoughts, because my thing is, here we have all the people that already want Disney premium digital collectibles are pretty much on VeVe, right? They already believe in it. They already kind of like understand it. And, Bob Iger said there'll be digital goods in their metaverse. Could you imagine if they go and they relaunch partners there? They would get so much pushback from this community, because like that's 98% of their core user base so far. They'd be like, what are you doing? Like, it's first on the blockchain over here. It's already been launched. It's, scarcer potentially. Like, so I think that's like one reason. And the second reason is that there seems to be like a potential alignment with Disney in terms of like why we're not seeing Marvel yet, or why we're not seeing these spaces, you know, become interoperable. Like, I don't know. I just wanted to pick your brain on that. Like, if you see this, you know, potentially being merged, like VeVe is like a core partner, and you could buy digital goods, you know, through their metaverse, and like we're like a pop-up shop, or I don't know.
I have mixed feelings about this because I think it would be a fantastic opportunity for VeVe, but I don't think it makes too much sense right now for Disney to include VeVe. The reason why I say that is because I think they're testing the waters a little bit with VeVe still. And another reason is they're in partnership with Fortnite or Epic Games to build this environment out. And Fortnite has been very clear that they're never going to introduce NFTs or anything like that on their platform. The topic of a third-party marketplace has been brought up in the past, and they don't want anything to do with that, which is why like you can't sell your skins on Fortnite to other players. The only way you can get them is by buying in the market, and that's because I think the reason was they didn't want to open themselves up to like liabilities, like legal issues,
right?
Like scams and stuff like that. But my thought on this whole partner statue thing, because I know that that's why a lot of, you know, the hype was generated at first. People saw the golden moment, right?
Right.
If I'm Disney, I'm going to use that in the promo because that's like one of their most notable pieces, right?
Right.
It's the partner statue. It's Walt Disney. It's Mickey Mouse. It's the statue that you see when you go into the parks, right? So because they've included it in that world and you can see it in the promo material, I don't think that that's an automatic connection to VeVe. To your point about if they were to release it again, that would piss off a lot of people on this platform. I completely agree. Probably would. But in Disney's eyes, I don't think they would really care, to be completely honest, because
I love this, man.
Our user base is just too small. Like VeVe is just too small of a business. Disney works with Cryptoys, they work with VeVe, they work with a million other brands. It's part of that, like doing your research, like dipping your toes in the water, see what works well, right? So they could very well just still be in those stages with a VeVe. But yeah, I'm not convinced that they're part of that yet. They may be in the future, and if they are, I hope I'm wrong. If they are, that's awesome. But yeah, I think VeVe is probably focused on their Veveverse as opposed to Disney's.
Yeah. Oh, those are some good points. Yeah. No, I love that because I think, you know, that's the one thing that I appreciate about these conversations is like, I want to hear people's different perspectives, and what you said there made a lot of sense. I think it might have just been sheer coincidence that like they really highlighted it all gold like that and everything, and it was like that literally looks like the exact partner statue that we all have. Here. Yeah. So I think it definitely got people excited, you know.
Yeah, and I have a partner statue, so I hope it's in there, dude, because that helps me. But it's I if I'm Disney, I look at that statue and it's almost like, why wouldn't we include it? You know what I mean? Like it's a part of their history. So
yeah. So somebody else asked here, this is kind of a bit of a, you know, a jump outside of our conversation about the Veveverse and stuff, but I think it's an interesting one. Is, you know, do you think when like Disney gave us these digital collectibles, especially the golden moments, do you think they understood this whole thing on like first appearance and blockchain, or do you think, like you said, they were just like, oh, let's just do something cool and see what happens, or because I feel like, at least from our community, they seem to have such significance because, you know, Disney's a massive, you know, $200 billion brand, and, you know, here they give us their first ever digital collectibles. You know, do you think it was just like testing the waters, or do you think there was like a long-term plan, or or like how do you think that went off?
I remember David saying how I think the meeting was like 3 years of them going back and forth before they actually signed. So I'm sure there was, you know, a lot of due diligence done, and there was a plan put in place. That plan's going to change as things evolve for sure. So I don't know how like far into the future that plan would have gone, but if I'm Disney, I'm using VeVe as a way to test the waters.
Right.
That's what I'm doing. And then now they're starting to release more like patents that they've issued for stuff related to NFTs, stuff related to digital items being used inside the parks and stuff like that. So using VeVe as a vehicle to try and figure out some of that stuff as well could be a possibility. I don't really know, but
yeah,
it's really hard to say. It's really hard to say.
Yeah, I hear you. And I guess it's like mutually beneficial at this point too, because then VeVe gets the big dog licensors. And then it's like at the same time, Disney doesn't have to promote it too much and they can understand what the value proposition is and everything. So I could see, I think honestly, you have a very clear angle on this. I think what you're saying makes a lot of sense,
Well,
So,
it's also not uncommon though for large companies to do exactly this and then bow out a few years later and start their own platform.
right.
Look at Disney Pinnacle.
Yeah, true.
Right?
True.
So it could just be like a research and development thing. It really could.
Yeah. The only thing I would say is that if they kind of shot themselves in the foot in a sense, because in 5 to 10 years, I feel like VeVe would always be part of that conversation.
That's true.
So it's on the blockchain or whatever you want to say, they were the first to because the significance, especially if Disney starts selling more digital goods on their own chain and everything, people are going to have these debates probably far into the future. So anyways, man, I think that's some really good answers. I appreciate that.
That's a really good point though. That is a really good point, because if they aren't looking at it from just a research standpoint and they did have a longer term plan, then dropping the golden moments as their first collectibles on the platform with some of the most major characters tied to Disney as well, C-3PO, R2-D2, Walt, Mickey,
right.
All of those are going to be first appearances. You can't change that now, no matter what happens moving forward. So that's an interesting perspective as well. Yeah.
Man, look at the two Canadians, brother, just getting into these awesome, debates. And hey, we got Orange Bag Lady here. She says, "What's the crack, brothers? Good to see you.
What up?
Future looks wild, man." I always love her. She's so cool. She's so chill.
Yeah. I was in VR chat with her yesterday, and she was saying the same thing when we were drawing. Oh my God, guys, we're in the future. We were in a world where they had a bunch of toys on a shelf, and then you could take the toy, you could pick up a toy, you could walk downstairs, and then there was kind of like a Dragon Ball Z diorama where you could put the characters on the diorama and play with them in VR. So we were all around the table, and you just see Casual and Swampy and OBL being like, oh, so funny. So.
Oh, that's cool, man. And this is actually funny too. Somebody says, even if Disney didn't understand that in the beginning, they must understand that now. That's a good point. If it's official, VeVe sold 1.4 billion. Is that right? Or in secondary sales in 2021, 2022. That means Disney got 6.5. That's a really good payday. That for sure.
Did they sell that much? 1.4 billion? Was it that high?
Wow. I didn't think it was, but
wow.
We'll have to get this fact check.
Wow.
But if that, I agree. If that number is right, that's crazy.
Yeah. To his point though, if that number is right, that is a really good point. 6.5% of that is it's a good payday for them. So.
Yeah, it makes them notice at least, right?
Yeah, and that's part of the reason why they would also kind of spread the net wide, more revenue opportunities for the business.
So, brother, we've been talking for an hour 24. I'll be honest, I could talk to you for another 4.5 hours, and I'm sure we can get into a bunch of stuff. But I know, we both have a limited time. I'm wondering, can we just do a last final tour of your amazing place here, and then we'll see, and then we'll ask everybody, about the prize. We'll come up with a cool question. I'll message you privately to see what we should say.
Just got a little elevator here. You come up to the, I don't even know what you would call this, foyer. Not really, but I got some of my custom artwork on the wall. I hope VeVe doesn't get mad at me for that, but it's all VeVe related. They can't.
Yeah, exactly. We're still largely promoting them. It's 99% VeVe.
But yeah, a little hallway in the front here opens up to two sides. So a little display room here. I need to get the gold Tokidoki Dragon Girl. It's probably the nicest golden piece in the Veveverse. On top of all the golden moments as well. It's so nice.
Oh, that's good to know. And it looks pretty sick. You think in the Veveverse? Have you seen it?
It looks incredible in the Veveverse. Yeah.
Wow, that's a good plug. And bro, somebody else says they did top around 1 billion in revenue in 2021. Yeah.
Wow. I knew it was high, but I did not think it was that high.
Same here. That's insane.
That's very impressive for a startup.
So impressive. This like view is here is probably my favorite. Like, I don't even know if we went down that one to the purple area there.
So this is like a little force field. So I just have to be continued. So I can expand it in the future. Yeah. Just so people can't walk through it. But that like, to my point about how you have the front and the back end, if this was structured more like the front end, I as a user shouldn't be able to walk through this, right? But if I really wanted to just get past it, I just go into fly mode and fly past it. Right? It's kind of defeats the purpose, but yeah.
That's funny. Oh man, this is so cool, bro. Like, I feel like this would be my dream apartment anyways, you know? And can we just like go up to one of these walls and just start looking at like the individual collectibles, like the stuff?
It's gonna lag a little bit because I'm getting closer, but let it load.
Yeah. Dude, I love how you still have like the Ultraman and like all those. That's pretty sick.
I focus a lot on the older pieces. Yeah, like if I was to buy stuff on the app right now, I would go back to like season 1 and 2. Everybody has their eyes on all the new shiny stuff.
Yeah. I think you're right, because and then on top of that too, it's like it gives you that OG status. It there's a lot of people too that got all these like really low mints that they're not selling. I find it's harder on the older collectibles to get like a sub 100. They're like all just stored away. Yeah, so that's good that you focus on that. Darth Vader looks crazy. The Akomi logo.
I don't know if you know much about Rivals, but I am falling in love with these covers, dude. Marvel Rivals, their new game. VeVe somehow managed to get them on the platform, so shout out to them, because I saw these and I started collecting them right away. But I think there's 7 on VeVe so far. And yeah, they just look awesome. We got Doctor Strange here, and then Penny Parker.
I love that with the genie lamp. That looks like legit.
Yeah.
And then what's in the other corner down there? I just want to see that because that looked crazy too.
Shelf TV.
So I love that you have your like Veveverse thing. That's cool.
Yeah, so that was using a feature that they took away, which was just adding like PNGs and files and stuff. So luckily I got that in there first, but
I see. Before they took it away.
Yeah.
Stan Lee, brother. That's another one that I feel like people don't talk about enough, you know?
Stanley, there's so many pieces on this platform that I'll come across and completely forget that they were on VeVe, just because like they need to improve their filters. I think that's like an obvious, but like I'll be on the brands tab and I'll try and figure out what I want to buy, and I'll have like a couple pieces in mind, but then by the time I get to the bottom of the brands tab, I have like 15 or 20 other pieces I want to get because I forgot that they were on the platform. So
right.
But yeah.
Oh man, that's so sick. Yeah. So I guess guys, like, if you want to get a space created, or if you want to learn more, make sure you hit up Josh. So, definitely check out all his socials at Collectors Gone Digital. I'm sure Josh, if like somebody's interested in getting a space created, they could probably DM you. Again, I know you're busy probably like for the next few months with what you got booked out, but there could be some opportunities there. And somebody earlier recommended for us to do like, a monthly show or bi-monthly or something, and just be cool to have you on more often, man. And just like, even if it's like shorter and we just walk through some of the stuff you're building.
Yeah, I'd love to, man. I appreciate that invite. Yeah,
it's an honor to kind of have you on, brother. So I've got, one question, I guess, that we can ask somebody. And I guess the first person that gets it will get, a digital collectible from VeVe. And it's going to be an easy one. So I just want to see who has the fastest fingers. But what comic came out in 1939 that we talked about in this show?
I saw we got Dr. Fuse in here as well. What's going on?
Oh, man? Yeah. Oh, shoot. Okay. Dr. Fuse is here. This is the guy you're creating it for, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's like 20,000 something collectibles. It's insane. Wow. Insane, man.
Okay. So yeah, Dr. Fuse, congrats to you, brother. Like, I mean, I just kind of got to, get to know Collectors Gone Digital, but he seems like an amazing guy, super technical, super talented. So I'm glad that, you're able to get an amazing space built by him. And bro, on my end, the first person that came up with the answer was Bolshevik.
There you go. Nice.
Yeah. So what about you? Do you see it on your end or no?
No, I don't.
I just want to make
actually.
sure, because sometimes it's like it depends on the leg, you know.
Oh no, I don't.
Okay. So the first one I have on my end is Bolshevik, brother. So congrats to you, man. You're gonna get the collectible from VeVe. So I'll just message VeVe after the fact, and then they'll probably they'll probably transfer it to you. So huge congratulations, buddy.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna take a picture, because I sometimes I get busy and I forget. So I want to make sure he gets it.
While you're doing that, I just want to add maybe one more point before we wrap up here.
Buddy, add all the points you want.
Yeah. So you made the comment about how, you and I are getting to know each other a little bit more. And that's something that I've realized is the real value proposition behind VeVe over the past month or so. And thank you to Dr. Fuse for showing up, because he's the reason why I thought about this. I had a call with him, right? Like when we were talking about his space, and this guy's super successful, like very specific niche. He's a kind of guy that I would never in a million years come across like in real life. Like we would never cross paths ever. Like not a possibility, I'm telling you, without like doxing his profession. But it made me realize in that moment that VeVe offers collectibles and comics and things that people love, which is fantastic. But the real value proposition is connecting people and experiences. And so because you like comics and because I like comics or collectibles or whatever, that's the reason why I'm on the show, right? It's because of VeVe, right? It's not because I started a YouTube channel. I could have started a YouTube channel about anything. It's because it's about VeVe, and VeVe has the offerings that they do, which is what's connecting people. And I think that that's really important for people to, learn and acknowledge, because the Veveverse is a tool that's now helping kind of just propel all that stuff forward now too. So
wow, that's so well said, man. Like everything is on the back of community, and I'm really glad that VeVe's paying attention more to us, because they're realizing how significant this all works. Without us, like there is no VeVe, right? Like people aren't going to be interested in collectibles and buying things and showcasing things. So
yeah,
I think that's really well said, man.
When he told me that on the phone, my exact answer to him was like, I have no idea how I ended up on a phone call with you, because he was talking about his day to day, right? And the types of people that he's typically around. And then he'll come out of work and starts interacting with collectors on VeVe. But like this guy can do laps around me on an intellectual level. Like never in a million years would I come across him in real life. So it was just super cool. And I realized in the moment, I was like, wow, like I'm connecting with some like top level people all because of VeVe. So it was a cool realization. So
I want to echo that, because I'm just gonna I'm gonna say similar to you, brother. Like everything's good, but I'm definitely like an average guy. I've got a 9 to 5, and I like this stuff as a kind of a passion project. But I'm connected with people the same as you that are way smarter than me. That just have so much more knowledge than I do. And what I love about it is that like they want to interact with me because we bring a value to them, right? And I'm like, there would be no way like that somebody would see me on the stream and be like, hey, I want to chat with Chad. But because I'm making content on stuff that they can spend $1 million on,
exactly,
now
right?
I'm interested.
It's so cool. It's so cool. So yeah, I think that's the main value proposition behind VeVe. Like the collectibles comics, awesome, but it's what the collectibles and comics are doing. So
holy shit, Josh, you're a legend, man. Guys, if you do not follow Josh, I think I said it like 4 times, but please go follow him. His channel should definitely be way bigger than mine. I think I just happened to start, when was it, like in the hype of things, and I was doing low quality content, and now we got a real content creator in here. So yeah, man, just want to say thanks a million for coming on. We'll do this more often. I guess I'll say this last comment. Somebody says, just like McDonald's is a real estate company, not a burger restaurant, VeVe is a connections and experiences company. Collectibles provide us a common topic and product that we love to help engagement. So
from the man himself, there you go.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
awesome. All right,
so
Josh,
cool. No,
again,
I appreciate the kind words, man. Thanks for having me on, and I would love to do this again in the future. So yeah, just let me know, and we'll make it happen.
Awesome. Let's do it, bro. Okay. Take care, big guy. Thanks for doing this.
Later, guys.
Oh, that was a lot of